Hey, welcome to Getting to Market. I'm Nate, here with John. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
I am excited for the weekend. I
Yeah.
feel like we're getting closer to the weekend. Looking forward to it. I also
Y-
said hey really. I'm like looking at the recording thing and it spiked really bad when I said hey. So you might have to.
There's a lot of you we edit out in post. That's fine. That's fine. You don't strike me as a working for the weekend kind of guy. Is it just like been a long week and you're like, okay, I just need to get my head out of it?
I think post pandemic. I don't know if you've had this experience, like brain fry. I'm either
Mm.
more self aware of it or having it way more. Where like people saying very normal things to me, I'm like not tracking at all and having to like take myself offline to like do the
Yeah.
compute.
Yeah. You
Um,
you yell greetings. Hey, oh, geez, man, settle it
hey,
down. It's gonna
yeah.
be fun.
Speaking of which, you having to edit that down. One of the things that I was thinking, well, first of all, in the process of doing this podcast, which you and I did very much on like a lark or a whim, um, we have we have just naturally settled into like PM and PMM roles in how we manage the podcast together and do the co-working part. So like you do all of the like semi-technical mixing and editing, and I do the writing for the descriptions.
I do like that part. Are you wanting to do this part of it? We can trade. Do you want to trade?
I absolutely do not want to trade, and it's so funny that it just like ended up that way. Maybe it's maybe it's part of why we're able to work together, but it is that thing of just like it just naturally sorted itself out that
Yep.
like I'm doing the writing and trying to find some way to joke about whatever actual serious topic we're talking about, and
Yep.
you end up doing the editing and all that. Um, Another thing is just like how every week of doing this in even as little a time as we sort of dedicate on the podcast as a whole, but like you still learn something every week about like the process, and we learn
Mm-hmm.
something new. Like we've switched tools on how we're recording.
Mm-hmm.
You found stuff about like promoting, which I think you were talking about on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah. One of my friends helped me get started on LinkedIn, just learning more about the platform. And so then it got me going and then just kind of trying to figure out how the robot behaves. And I think there's whole careers on this of like, how do you use platforms correctly and what stuff do you do? But we
Yeah,
found even just in promoting this, that when you post on LinkedIn with a link, it seems to bury that from other people's feeds, as opposed to
yeah.
without a link. And so then she and I started going back and forth on and kind of sharing notes. And then you sent me something about, I don't know if you saw this in it, but later on down that post, it said that the trick is you have to have three links. And then LinkedIn promotes it more. And I thought, what? And it's like LinkedIn finds you more resourceful if you have three or more links in your posts. And I was like, I don't even have three friends. What would I post three different links about in here?
Well, for our podcast, we could do Spotify, Apple, and Substack.
In the
So there's
Substack.
your three.
There we go.
Um, I'm also just waiting for the point where your LinkedIn engagement from folks that follow you gets to the point where you just start posting political content to make up the gap.
Buzzwords and political
Yeah.
content to make up the gap.
All right. Today's topic, I think, is just kind of based on the time of year we're in, which is mid-year reviews. I don't know where you want to start, John, but like, what makes a good mid-year review? Do you like this process of like checking in mid-year?
Well, my favorite part about mid-year review is I have yet to work someplace where it happens in the middle of the year. We talk about it starting at the
Oh,
beginning of the year, but then it's
all
always
right.
like August and September are when they're
Yeah.
due. And I'm like, that word mid, I don't think it means what you think it means. Um, I do like the idea of formal conversations, just like, or not even formal necessarily, but mid-year just being able to step back from the how we're doing what we're doing and like how's it going, and almost in a safe space of that of like what do you need, are you getting what you want to do really from a career direction standpoint. I think that stuff is really helpful, so I like that.
How do you rely on the mid-year process to kind of structure that and have it be kind of like an enforced part of your what you guys cover, or it is just like you're refusing to let it come up in
Yeah,
one-on-ones
I
so you don't want to
actually
talk
I
about it?
turn my camera off if it comes up. I just cover it up. Not No, we will talk about all kinds of things all the time, and hopefully it's more of a
Yeah.
regular stream of conversation.
Okay.
um Mid-years probably for me, if I think about, for my team, what do I want to do for mid-years, it's really about career development and career direction, and then planning out like what do we want to do in the next 6 months to help you get to where you want to be in the next 2 years. And
Yeah.
so some of that is just a helpful conversation that may not come up more naturally, I suppose, too. I would assume you do something similar. It doesn't seem that fancy or magical.
Yeah, I think it's just whenever it feels like it's top of mind, which I
Hmm.
think honestly is maybe sometime when like work stresses are peaking, and that's when I'm like, I need to recalibrate what I'm
Hmm.
looking for. But
Hmm. Hmm.
um, okay, good to know your one-on-one's not a safe space unless it's a formal
Yeah.
mid-year
Pre-
review,
pre-approved
um,
safe space.
pre-approved safe space. One of the things that I think is interesting about talking about careers is I think there's a lot of personality types where folks aren't excited to talk with their manager
Hmm.
about what they're looking to get out of their career. How do you get people out of their shell, and kind of be self-interested in the way that you kind of have to be in these conversations?
I don't have a good answer is the short version. I could ramble. It just,
Yeah.
some of it just takes trust, a lot of trust where they would feel comfortable talking about what they want to do.
Yeah.
Um, so I will try to, as a part of the interview process or when they first come in, or maybe just, end of year review and then mid year, bring it up. Hey, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And then be really deliberate about calling that out again so that they know I'm still thinking about this career progression stuff for you and what it is that you want to get into. And then what
Yeah.
resources we have for you, um,
Right.
to get better at it. But it's really hard to build that where someone's really comfortable in just sharing, some of it could be really personal and even to the
Yeah.
degree of like, you know what, I don't know, maybe you've had this happen. Has anyone ever said to you, I thought I liked this job but I don't, and this is, I want, and it's not you, it's not the thing, I just don't like the job. Have you had that happen?
Not that explicit conversation. I've had people, at one point in my career, I had somebody who was very early on in their marketing career,
Hmm.
and then after they left my team, for kind of structural reasons, they just ditched marketing completely and went a like totally different direction with their career, which I tried not to take as like a referendum on my management. I do think if you are not an advocate for yourself, it's really hard to rely on your manager to do it for you. Whatever your manager's intentions, like you are kind of responsible for keeping them on their toes about what you're trying to get done because there's just so much other stuff going on and it's not like a personal thing, but you've got to be kind of like a big part of that driver. And I think one of the things that I work with folks who where promotion it happening is a key part of whether or not they'll stay is like is what's is what they're goaled to and what they're working on, does it have the visibility to reinforce a case for promotion
Hmm.
when the time comes around? um and some of it is like you have to help them kind of in that self-interest part of attaching them to things that are high visibility. And in truth, like sometimes that means like I take a back seat and let them shine brighter on the stuff that they're working on so that they get that visibility with the folks that are going to play a role in approving a promotion.
Oh, right.
um, but I think like it's so important. If a promotion's important to you or if like advancing at a certain place, like you have to be willing to tell your manager what it is you want out of
Yeah.
your career progression and be willing, especially because these conversations happen at mid-year or end of year whenever you do your review cycles of like being having the wherewithal to have that conversation as hard as it can be to like put yourself out there on what you want.
Hmm.
But otherwise it's going to be tough for that manager just to guess
Yeah.
and try to make that happen for you.
They won't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a certain level of cockiness about me where like I'll just tell people what I want. So like
Yeah.
that part of telling my leader, hey, this is what I
Yeah.
want to go to, this is what I want to get to. I'm far more comfortable with that.
What do you do when you're in a situation where someone comes to you and you know you couldn't make that happen for them?
Hmm.
Um, how do you structure that conversation to keep it productive?
I'm trying to think of what of this story that came to my head I can share. Probably not that much.
Yeah.
If it's inside the org, that's an easier conversation. Like, oh, I'm gonna go. Like, let me introduce you to Nate. Y'all can talk through some different stuff. Maybe it's a mentorship thing. Maybe it's just a touch point to here and there, and he can share what he knows. Like that might be a path when it's across the departments. When it's outside of
Yeah.
the team, then this situation got a little bit weird because it was like helping them plan when to do personal life stuff. Yeah, they were like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go do this very random. I feel like I'm being really cagey. They wanted to run a lawn care business, and I was like, "Hey, that's great. I would love that. Um, it's October.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that right now?" And so we had this I remember this conversation where I was like, "Why don't you stick around for a little bit? We'll keep this between you and I, and then you do that
Yeah.
later." And they were like, Nope. Okay, great. So it's just like that was an interesting version of that conversation. I don't know. I'm open to those conversations, and it's almost like the whole employee experience type of idea of like, if it ain't working for you here, I'd rather you be happy somewhere than miserable
Sure.
here, and I'll help
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
out the door if that's what you want. Like, I don't want to, but sure.
One of the things that I try to do, because we had the last episode was about politics, that I think can be helpful is that working with that person's stakeholders and like getting them on board. Like,
Mm,
do I have your support? Like, has this person been providing what you need to be effective, and like doing check-ins with them as you're approaching that period, I think, and seeing that
hmm,
you have kind of the, I think, I don't know, political support to
sure.
help provide like a backbone for when you're putting this person up for promotion, I think can be helpful. Um,
That's very kind of you. Like, are you like, hey, this is a person that you need to have their approval before this happens. I'm going to just
I
have the
think
two of
it's
you talk about a topic.
well, it's like, hey, I I would like this person to be in a position where the case is really easy.
Mm,
Um, I want your support on that as well. So if we're not there now, what do we need to do between now and when that date's going to come up, so that you feel comfortable giving that support publicly? So that's one of the things I think can sometimes be helpful on the political side.
yeah,
But yeah, it's tough because depending on the company, like the what is tied to the different review cycles, if there's multiple, is like varies. Like sometimes there's not, like you can't promote during some cycles, or there's no comp increases or anything like that. And so sometimes it does feel like what's in it for the employee on it, other than like they could potentially get like bad feedback. But
yeah,
it is like, it does help you, I think, square up. Like if your goal is something that is like tied to a later one, this is an opportunity to kind of take a step back. What do we need to do before this next one, that is going to affect like your comp or a promotion or whatever.
yeah. You said you were looking forward to the weekend. What does that mean you learned this week? Did you learn anything, or is that a part of you like, I haven't learned anything, I'm out?
So one of our kids, our youngest, is 4, and at one point she was like frustrated with me. She was like, "Oh my god, bruh," and like called me bruh,
That's
which
amazing.
dislike. No, don't please don't call me that.
New
Also like
nickname.
where also maybe a little bit of like cultural appropriation. Like I don't know if she's allowed to say that. Maybe she gets canceled as a 4-year-old for
Mm,
saying that. Who
that
knows?
that happened early.
So that was the thing that I learned, is like how quickly you can turn from dad to bruh. It happens overnight. How about you? What'd you learn?
I'm trying to think of what I've learned. I haven't learned
The
too
alphabet.
much. I
You
learned the
finally
alphabet.
nailed that 26th letter.
I'm trying to learn it backwards.
Yeah. For those
I
tests that you take at the roadside sometimes.
Yep, yep. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I learned. So we
Okay.
have a little building, like a little, we call it the summer house, which makes it sound very hoity-toity. It's like a jacked up little garden shed, and a tree
Nice.
fell on it, and so we've been
Uh-huh.
kind of fixing that up. And I had this idea of that thing's still kind of nice. Maybe we should move that someplace else. And I wondered, how much would it cost to move this building? So it's a 12 by 20 foot. That's 4 by 7 meters. Thank you to our international listeners. Um, and it costs. Do you have a guess at how much it costs to move a building that
Ooh,
size?
that's bigger than I expected when you said shed. 5K.
$300.
Oh.
Isn't that
Oh.
cool?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna move that thing. I'm pretty excited about that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
To the Hamptons. You're moving it to the
We're
Hamptons.
moving it to the Hamptons. Yeah, that's the part of the yard that's the hidden part of the yard. We call it the Hamptons.
Yeah.
But yeah, way more affordable than we thought. Apparently, there's a whole industry around moving large buildings, and it's real straightforward. And there's magical equipment that scoops that baby up, moves it across the yard, and done and done.
I feel like there's some hidden fee there where you're gonna have to like reassemble the shed
Yeah, they drop it.
once it's moved. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Some folks come down from the hollers, and oh, we'll move that thing for you, and then they get a bad
Yeah.
back.
300 bucks.
They get hurt in insurance settlement.
You're on your own.
Well, good to see you, man. Like
Yeah. Good to see
like
you
this
too.
time we get to chat, as haphazard as it is. This is always good
It's
to get to
haphazard.
chat.
This one was a little squeezed in, but it was a good time.
It's a good time. Tuesdays, subscribe. We'll get all 3, maybe even 4 links in our posts to make sure you, dear listener, can hear the latest episodes. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Good to See you, bud.